What's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got an update for you guys on the tropics. So, as you guys know, we have Hurricane Lee now, but we also are dealing with newly formed Hurricane Margot. So we were talking about mostly just Hurricane Lee for pretty much all of last week, but now we have Hurricane Margot as well. Margot will not be a threat to land, but we have a 75-mile-an-hour Category 1 hurricane with central pressure at around 988 millibars, all right? So Margot is just going to do her own thing out here in the Atlantic, not really bothering anybody other than the fish. But here's Lee. This is the big story that you're probably hearing about. This is what we're going to have to we're concerned about this just because we are going to see some pretty big impacts, especially along inside of this region right here. I think we're going to get at least some heavy rainfall, but some very gusty winds. That could definitely get up to hurricane force, I think, but a little bit closer to Nova Scotia, all right? And at the same time, behind all this, we have another chance of development that looks pretty concerning according to the models. We have another tropical wave that's coming off the coast of Africa located on this X right here. And so far, it's got a medium 60% chance of development throughout the next 7 days. So it appears that the environmental conditions do appear conducive for development. So it looks like we will actually get a named storm out of this. So it looks like this could definitely be Tropical Storm Nigel sometime late, very, very late this week into next week. But gotta keep watching pretty much every one of these systems. So moving on to our satellite loop for Lee, just to get everything started here. I am glitching like crazy. I apologize for the glitchiness of the video. It's been a huge struggle with my computer. It's been very glitchy. But if you could see this right here, you can see Lee looking pretty good on satellite. It's still trying to get out of that phase of the it underwent the phase of the replacement. Okay, so Lee is now generating a new eye. You can see it's small, but it's becoming more pronounced. Meaning that Lee can start re-strengthening again. You can see it's popping off some pretty good convection, especially on the northern side in these last few frames of the satellite imagery here. But you can see we got a broad area of rotation, and we still have that big area that I'm concerned about with those hurricane force winds. We looked at the aircraft recon when this thing was a Category 5, and I'm telling you guys, if you looked at any of those pictures or those graphics, you saw that wind field was massive, all right? So if this continues, which it could quite possibly will, because this will be a Category 2 hurricane as this moves into those areas across the East Coast, I think that we could get hurricane force winds all the way out towards the Cape Cod area and then some coastal areas of places that could get hit by Lee. But this is Lee right now. We still got some more outer bands circulating around the storm. The shear has calmed down a little bit, but there's still a tiny bit more shear on the front of the system. There's a lot less, but you can see some of these rain bands starting to get sheared off a little bit, so that's bothering Lee. It's keeping it away from becoming a monster Cat 4. It's probably going to be a low end Category 4 hurricane. I think the chance for this thing becoming another Category 5 is out the window. But you never know. You just got to watch the system. But I really don't think that we should be too worried about Lee until this starts curving northward. That's when we got to start thinking about the real impacts from Lee. So we look at the latest 5-day cone from the National Hurricane Center, and this is what's concerning. All right. So this is our 5-day cone right here. This is our actually no. This is 1 to 3 days out. All right. So we go up to Thursday here. We see the major hurricane markings go up until Wednesday. And at Thursday, this is getting into the middle of the night, 2 a.m. Thursday, back down to a Category 2 hurricane. And so we expect this to stay as a Category 2 hurricane as it moves up into the North Atlantic, all right? And so you can see that pretty much right now we're starting to see the storm curve north, starting to gain latitude. But if you notice though, just a few days ago, or I wouldn't say a few days ago, like 2 weeks ago, when we were starting to first hear about Lee, we saw the models showing some, especially the European, showing Lee starting to curve up right around here. And you look at where it is now, all right? It's curving up here, and it's still getting close, pretty close to the United States coastline, all right? So think if it curved up here and actually did what the models were saying, we could have a full-on landfall in a pretty much a different area right here, all right? So I mean that just goes to show that you can't make stuff up or guess pretty much weeks out from where the storm's actually going to hit. So that's just why we really had to wait until this moment. But I really do think that this is the official graphic and the official cone that you want to see here. I think even though this is in the area, the cone of uncertainty here, I mean this will certainly change. But I think this is going to be around what the real forecast is going to look like. But I think this has been shifting west a tiny bit. All right, just a little bit. It's not very. I don't think it's too concerning for you folks out here in southern New England, but it is a little bit more concerning for you guys out in the Massachusetts coastline. Other than that, I think we're okay with Lee for now. It's going to be very close though. It's the one thing that's really scaring everyone here. All right, but we look at the GFS. We're going to compare the GFS and the Euro. And let me tell you guys first, we are starting to see a pretty good agreement here from both two models. And I think this is really showing us that we're in that zone, that time zone, where we really can start saying stuff about where this thing is going. So you see here, this is still a 954 millibar Category 3 hurricane. It might even be a Category 4 at this point, but we're getting into, this is Thursday here. This is likely a Category 2. It's starting to move north, all right? Here's Bermuda. Excuse me. It misses Bermuda from a direct hit, all right? So if it did hit Bermuda, which, we're obviously not going to get that, then we would see, I would tell you guys, the U.S. impacts and the Nova Scotia impacts would go down very, very dramatically, all right? This would probably go out to sea, but just the outer bands kind of nipping Bermuda, but this does actually, the eye comes pretty close to Bermuda, a little bit closer, too close for comfort. That's pretty much what you say here. But now we've gotten past Bermuda. We know what's going to happen here. This is where we got to start talking about the United States and Nova Scotia, right? So we're getting into Friday. So this is like 5 days out here. We have a 960 Category 2 hurricane gaining speed, starting to jump north, looking like it's going to plow Nova Scotia. But this is one thing that I've been concerned about with the GFS and the Euro. All right? So one would think, all right, you're not really seeing any change in the direction of the system. It's just going to plow right up north here. But just watch. Just wait and see here, all right? So we're still at Friday. We're getting to 8 a.m. Friday. We're waking up Friday. It's starting to move north, and you're thinking, all right, so we're not going to get any impacts here other than big waves out here along the northeast coast, so we just got to watch out and worry for Nova Scotia. But that's not the case. You can see it's pretty much moving directly north, but here you go. It takes a jump west, and all of a sudden, the entire Northeast could be at risk here, all right? I would say this is the last chance, the last possible chance that we could get some sort of a direct hit on at least the coastline of the Northeast, all right? And so now at this point, you're thinking like, oh no, this is either going to stall out and it's just going to really give a beating to the coastline, or this is going to just jump right into the coast. But, I mean, that's really not the case. It does grow in size. It's kind of, in a way, exploding, if you want to put it that way. But, I mean, this is a massive storm. I mean, all the rain bands are getting all the way up to eastern Long Island, all right? And so I think you guys are hearing, the Cape Cod area could certainly be close enough to that eye wall that you could receive hurricane force winds, because this is a strong enough storm to be producing those winds as far out as you guys, if the GFS were to be correct. But we get impacts starting at around early. This is early Saturday. You're really waking up at around 5 a.m. when you get those major impacts. But you'll start feeling that rain and that wind as early as 2 a.m. On Saturday morning, and then pretty much takes all day up until Sunday for this thing to get out, and it's still impacting Maine. This is actually driving right into Maine. We got to worry about Maine. But I mean, I really think that now we've shifted. Our certainty has shifted. We're starting to. We got an idea of what's going to happen. All right, what's going to happen in this area right here. But the question is what's going to happen in this area right here, because I think the storm can go two ways once we get to this northern circle here. I think the storm could go like this, and it could get too close to the coast and then kind of go like that. That would be a weird track. It looks weird. It bumps into the coast and then it jumps away from it and just goes north. Or this could just go like this. See the coast that it's there, and then go back to its projected track and go out to Newfoundland and Maine, pretty much like that. All right, I think that's what the GFS is hinting, but this could certainly change. I mean, we're still over 100 hours out at this point, but you don't know. I think we're certainly getting a lot more confidence over where the general area that's going to get hit is going to be. We just don't know who's going to get hit the hardest. That's what we're trying to figure out here. But this makes us some sort of landfall on both Maine and Nova Scotia as at least a Category 1 hurricane. I think it looks like you guys in Maine, I mean, at some point you'll probably start feeling some stronger winds, but I don't know. I really don't know how strong these winds would be at this point. I mean, it's still a 978 millibar hurricane, but it really does not look anything like a hurricane other than, the rain bands and just the circulation with the storm at this point. So, it's way too far out really to know I wouldn't say it's way too far, but you can't really tell from just looking at the wide view of GFS of how strong exactly the storm would be. But it does appear that the storm will make a landfall on Maine and Nova Scotia, right? This is going to change a little bit, that's for sure, but this is pretty much this is going to be pretty much close to what the real cone and path of the storm is going to look like, all right? So that's the GFS. All right, this is the Euro. You're probably thinking the Euro has been on mind of its own for the entire duration of the storm, but really it's not, especially for the 12Z. All right, today the 12Z has been pretty much spot on for the Euro, other than the strengthening. Well, notice how we quickly go back and forth between a 940 and 938 millibar Category 4 high-end, maybe Category 5 hurricane. So already, this is only 21 hours out. This is less than 24 hours out. And the European model is already hinting a possible Cat 5, all right? So I guess if the European is saying that we could see a Category 5 here, that certainly points out that the Category 5 is still not out of the picture. But this continues as a Category 4 hurricane up until about Wednesday, all right? So it's starting to move north, and we'll stop it around here. Notice how it's beginning to move. It's shifting northeast. All right, so that's gonna put Bermuda on alert a little bit more, but it's starting to move in this direction. So you'd think that it'd make a direct hit on Nova Scotia. All right, but notice how it sets its eyes on northeast. Look, it's this L here, the symbol L. It's shifting. Its placement is a little bit. It's off to the northwestern side of things. All right, that hints maybe some possible direction. Maybe some possible direction of the storm changing its path and then moving closer to the coast. But it's pretty much at this point. It's starting to. You're starting to see a small shift in the movement, but it's pretty much. It's pretty much lined up with the coast. So you'd think that the time is pretty much ran out for the storm to make landfall, but it starts moving towards the coast, but at the same time, it's expanding. It's getting bigger. It's starting to kind of, you could say it's starting to decompose kind of, because it's losing steam for sure. At this point, it could even not even be a hurricane at this point. It looks like this could be just a very strong tropical storm, but it's getting bigger, all right, and it's losing steam here. So those rain bands for sure. If you get the center of the storm making its way close to an area here, close enough to the coast, you could have rain bands stretching all the way towards New York City. All right, this could be a really big storm for many areas. All right, but then the Euro has this thing moving on into parts of Maine and then Newfoundland, and then that's pretty much it. So the Euro and the GFS are pretty similar. The strengthening is definitely still different, but I mean you could definitely agree with me though there that we see the European model and the GFS starting to starting to agree with each other a little bit better than they used to earlier in the this weekend and then last week. So we move on to these are European ensembles here. And so we see most of the members, taking this straight up here. There's three sides. Again, there's still some sides that, we're still seeing some disagreement with where this thing could be going exactly. But we see here on the SpaghettiOs, there's a good bunch of them. The majority of them, I would say, are in this area here. This area that pretty much goes straight up north. There's another bunch that's trying to compete with this one that takes us farther out to the east, taking it towards the eastern part of Nova Scotia. And there's a few of them, just a few, that take this into the Massachusetts coastline. All right, obviously that's going to put the Northeast at risk, putting Long Island at risk, especially because you get those outer bands of the storm, and since the storm is it's rotating in a counterclockwise direction, it pushes these waters. The winds push across the Long Island Sound, so the winds begin to strengthen because they don't have any rough land to go over, and so that's going to really pick up those winds on Long Island. So I would say the closer the eye moves towards you guys on Long Island and even southern New England, I think you're going to see some stronger wind gusts for sure. I think you could really if you had any tracks in this area here, you could certainly have wind gusts that could get up to at least 50 miles an hour. I think maybe even higher. So you really got to watch out for even some light to moderate impacts, even if the storm doesn't exactly get as close to you guys as it shows here on a few members of the European ensemble. But they for the most part, they have the storm. They have the storm moving into the northeast as looks like. I don't know, actually. I'm a little confused here. I think. Oh, here we got the wind speeds. All right, so as pretty much a Category 1 hurricane. You can see, when you see these yellows and oranges, these are max winds. These are just sustained winds at around 60, 70 knots, which is around 80 to 90 miles an hour. This is your sustained winds, so you're likely having gusts up to 100, maybe 105. So really, if you had the eye of the storm move into the Massachusetts coastline and you had the eye wall pretty much like this, I mean, one would think that those winds that are stretching into those areas, rotating around the storm, could certainly be pushing. They could certainly be pushing strong tropical storm force, especially for you guys out here on central and eastern Long Island, southern New England in general, Connecticut, portions of Rhode Island, and also parts of western Massachusetts. So there's a lot of different scenarios that could happen here. But I just want to let you guys know that there still is a chance that this thing could either go out to sea a little bit farther. This could just continue going straight up north like we've been expecting it to, or it could kind of start expanding because you could say it's decomposing in a way, but it also kind of nudges against the coastline, raising those concerns for U.S. impacts. All right, so we'll go on to the GFS model we're looking at here, just the wide view of the Atlantic. So we've pretty much covered Lee and Margot, but there's something behind it that I'm concerned about, and I'll show you why. All right, so here goes Lee and Margot. They're doing their thing, and Lee brings its impacts, and then that's it. But notice how right after Lee forms, we get another system that looks exactly like Lee. All right? And so we're getting to about 120 hours out. Let me even put this even farther. This is just 100 hours out, and we already have a full-on tropical depression moving towards Lesser Antilles. And I also want you to notice here, this looks identical to what Lee used to look like. I mean, notice how this continues moving towards Lesser Antilles, but it's taking that pretty much the same exact track as Lee, all right? It's so interesting to see here, but now we have a full-on tropical storm as soon as 144 hours out, which is pretty much Sunday. What is this, Sunday? Oh, wow. All right, so we could have a full-on tropical storm by Sunday of this weekend. All right, so we're getting to Sunday of next week. We have a tropical storm on our hands. All right, and at this point, we have a hurricane on our hands as early as possibly Monday. All right, so this is the week out. We might even have a hurricane on our hands. So this could really be Hurricane Nigel. All right, I really do think, but this absorbs that moisture that's left over from Lee, and it's just gaining strength. There's nothing to stop it other than this ongoing ridging out here. All right, this is pretty strong ridging, keeping it farther south. All right, so that's pretty much another reason why we could see another storm, possibly Nigel, taking that same trajectory and path as Lee has taken. But the GFS gets us down to a 952. Most likely Category 3 major hurricane, and you can see it's in that same area that it's in right now. All right, so it's gaining on the Bahamas. Now it's a 948 millibar hurricane. This is really far out, so this is going to change. This is not what's going to happen. All right, this is incorrect information, but this is just showing us, what possible scenario is out there, and what could happen with another possible system. So we switch this over to the look at the Eastern U.S. panel here just to get a better look at things. All right, and so we've got a strong hurricane gaining on the Bahamas. All right, and it barely misses the Bahamas, but then you'd think, like, oh no, the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast is next. This looks like it's going to go for the Carolinas. It doesn't do that exactly, but it's still moving north, still chugging, and it slams into the southern New England coastline. Right, this is way too far out, but I think really, I just want to make sure you guys know that the GFS has been consistently hinting that the storm will, it could definitely form out here in the Atlantic and get strong. But the GFS wants us to approach the United States and maybe even get close to it. All right, so we just got to watch out for any possible impacts to the United States after Lee, maybe from future tropical storm or hurricane Nigel. All right, so we're gonna switch this video back to the United States here, just going back home. I've been talking about the tropics for a few days straight, and we haven't really talked about the United States weather lately. So, we got also a lot of impacts going on out here in the United States. We have a trough. This is our lower level trough that's going to be sweeping up. Lee. It's right now. It's moving pretty much in a eastern direction. It's moving kind of like this. All right. And the southern part, where those strong storms are, the strongest severe storms located in the southern U.S. are. That's moving towards the east. That's going to pick up late, and then it's going to potentially, it's going to keep it away from the United States far enough, but it's going to potentially put it out to sea, which I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. So, just looking here, you can see that we got some storms. We got some pretty strong storms firing across the Mid-Atlantic region and the Northeast. I've actually been experiencing those in the past few hours. I was on my way home from school, and we actually we kind of intercepted one of these storms on the way home from school, and it was a strong one. All right, we definitely have some flooding out there, but I don't think that these are really severe in particular. Let me switch this back to the wide view of the United States rather than, Cadillac, Michigan. But yeah, we will have to really watch out for some flooding downpours out here in the Northeast and a ongoing severe weather threat with these storms out in the central U.S. Occurring across parts of northern Oklahoma and parts of southern Kansas. So we'll move on to the NAM 3K model. This is for the Northeast. I just want to wrap this up for you guys, so I'm just going to look at the Northeast and just look at the flooding threat, and then we'll look at the SPC outlook at the end of the video. But you can see here that our strong storms, they're right here, all right? And so we have our low pressure signature right here. It's pretty weak, but it's definitely delivering some strong storms. And even for those of you that have actually gotten through a round of storms, I think there's still going to be a likely chance that you will get another round of strong to severe storms today. You can see these strong storms charging across the Pennsylvania area, going through northern and central New Jersey, and then entering Long Island and New York City. Those are definitely going to be strong. Those could impact anywhere from pretty much right now around the dinner time area, all the way up until around 9-10 p.m. tonight, and then also some lingering showers and thunderstorms as we get to the overnight hours of tonight, moving out of the Boston area. So, you could definitely get a few rounds of storms that are going to be pretty strong. But the reason why we're seeing this flooding is because we've been continuously seeing some excessive rainfall in the past few days, but these storms have been dropping a lot of rainfall. And so when you get multiple rounds of these storms that are slow moving, by the way, you get a lot of rainfall with them too. That's just going to add up on the streets, which don't have enough time to dry. And so that eventually causes flash flooding. So that's why you just don't want to, if you encounter a flooded road, you just want to turn around, don't drown, unless, the flooded road is only covered by an inch or so of water. But if you can clearly see that it's like, a foot plus, or even just like, a few inches, you just don't want to, lose your engine or something. You just want to stay safe. So just turn around and find a different route to wherever you need to be. But here comes our trough swinging by in the next few days or so, and we're getting into, what is this? We're getting to tomorrow. So it actually, I guess this is actually the trough. This isn't exactly the trough that's going to be picking up late. I think that it's the next one behind it. So I apologize for that. But this one is going to bring another round of showers and thunderstorms to the Northeast. You can see some more storms firing across the Delmarva area here. All right, these move into New Jersey pretty strong, and then Long Island next. You guys get hit by one round, and then another round of storms around the 6 p.m. time frame. Looks like sometime on Wednesday. So we'll go over to our Weather Prediction Center outlook for our excessive rainfall. We have two slight risk areas. We have an area here in central Texas. That's just for that area that's encountering those strong storms that have been dropping a lot of rainfall. And then here's our area in the Northeast that's covered in that slight risk. All right, these are for that storm. Again, those are for the storms that are just they're slow moving. There are a few rounds of them, but they're dropping a lot of rainfall. So nothing much with going on other than that. You have a few marginal risks here and there out in Florida, out in Michigan, but pretty much for the rest of you guys out here and maybe in the Southwest or the rest of the Northeast, you just have a small threat for flash flooding, but that is pretty much it for the most part. So, for the last part of the update, we'll look at our SPC outlook. We have another slight risk, but this time for severe weather out in parts of southeastern New Mexico, parts of central, and I guess this would be the western part of Texas here. Not a very high population total, around 1.5 million people, but you got some pretty big cities out here: Lubbock, Texas, Abilene, Texas, Midland, Texas, Odessa, Texas, and San Angelo, Texas. Tornado threat, only 2%. Really doesn't look like we're going to get any tornadoes today. Wind threat, 50% risk with the hatched risk. All right, that's pretty high. So don't be surprised if you get a storm that brings some wind gusts that get over 60 miles an hour. We could really see that. We have the potential for that. But hail threat, also a 15% risk with the hatched risk. So you'll not only have that wind threat, but you could also get some pretty large hail bouncing on your roof. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks so much for coming to watch. We'll see you guys in the next video. So just stay safe with Lee. We got to continue figuring out where exactly the places are going to get hit the hardest. But looks like we got an idea of where it's going to hit. Just stay safe out there in the Northeast and the Central U.S. Turn around, don't drown. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for coming to watch, and we'll see you guys soon.